So, but anyway, it's great to be invited. It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much. Just a little bit about my background. I will be a quarter-century Virginian sometime next month. I actually moved down, just had the 25th anniversary of my employer early last month. I was born and raised in Findlay, Ohio. I was in high school during the Watergate era, and nobody was a young Republican during Watergate, even in Rockwood Republican area. I mean, so I was a young Democrat in high school. Don't worry, we accomplished nothing, fortunately. We were completely harmless. But then when I went to college, I got my undergraduate degree at Indiana University and became, in my study of economics, I was an economics and poli-sci major, and began with the study of economics to become more conservative in economics and sort of identified more with the Republican Party. Then I got my MBA from the University of Chicago and started my career, and I definitely identified more with the Republican Party than the Democratic Party. But during the first term, I joined the Libertarian Party in 1984, and I got to tell you why. Because I was disappointed in the first term of Ronald Reagan. I thought that Ronald Reagan did not act when he could have to cut government spending and to really change the ways of Washington back in the early 1980s. Unfortunately, I think he did a lot of very good things as president, and maybe it's not humanly possible. It may not be humanly possible for one person to come in when people down in Congress in your own political party are working to maintain the status quo, to ever increase government spending. Not even Ronald Reagan could turn the tide back in the early 1980s, and at that time I decided that the Republican Party wasn't the answer, and I certainly was not going to be a Democrat, so I joined the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party is the third largest political party in the United States in terms of number of members, in terms of number of candidates that they run for office. It's a combination of conservative on economic issues and liberal on social issues. The core philosophy running through that is we want to minimize government coercion in society. That's what we want to do. That is the goal of the Libertarian Party, and we think that is needed to have a free society and a just society and a prosperous society, and all of our public policy proposals flow from that. Now, in terms, some of you might have heard my name before. This is going to be my 5th time running for office. I ran for House of Delegates against Vince Callahan back in 1993, and the first time I ever ran for office, and somebody said, well, how do you think you're going to do? And I said, well, I hope Vince doesn't beat me any worse than 2-1. Well, Vince Callahan beat me 6.5-1. And that was a real baptism of fire that night. Believe me, as a Libertarian, election night is your least favorite night of the year, but that sort of began for me that night. But it was a great experience. I got out, met a lot of people in the 34th House District. I ran in a special election for state senate in the Eastern Loudoun District in 1998. I was a Libertarian candidate for governor in 2001 here in Virginia, and then I was the Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate in Virginia in 2008. And this year I am challenging Frank Wolf, and there's a Democrat in the race. His name is Jim Barnett. And those are the 3 candidates on the ballot. Now, I'm going to test your political knowledge here, your Virginia political knowledge. How do you get on the ballot? All right, there are just 3 people. Why is it that I'm on the ballot? And does anybody here know what it takes to get on the ballot for U.S. House of Representatives in Virginia?
Like 10,000 signatures?
No, not no. It's 10,000 statewide. Okay, for a statewide office. That's 10,000 valid signatures, which means you've got to get 14 or 15,000 total signatures to make sure you have 10,000 valid. For U.S. House of Representatives, it is 1,000 valid signatures, and I spent a lot of time in front of supermarkets. Let me tell you, thank you, Giant Food. Let me tell you, when Wegmans came to Leesburg, all right, my wife, Giant Food, you know what? It takes a big firm, a big company to say, you know what? We're wrong. We were wrong. Back in 1992, when we were petitioning to get the presidential ticket of the Libertarian Party on the ballot, we asked Giant Food, can we petition at your supermarket? And they said no. Then I read in the Washington Post that Ross Perot volunteers are petitioning at Giant Food. So we called them up and said, hey, what gives? You said no to us, you said yes to them, and you know what they said? They said, you know what, you're right. You're right. We should allow you to petition here at the supermarket if we allow them to petition. And they have ever since 1992. And when Wegmans came to Leesburg, my wife said, oh, I may shop at Wegmans. I go, oh, no, you don't. We're a loyal giant food family. I'll tell you that. In any event, but I'm running. Why am I running this year? I'll tell you why. Because government spending is the issue in this campaign. Of course, there are always dozens or scores of issues that could be discussed, but government spending is the core issue in this campaign. We are apparently in year 2 of a 3-year stretch where we're going to run $1.4 trillion federal budget deficits for 3 consecutive years. Unprecedented in the history of this nation in terms of, and it's the biggest deficit we've had since World War II. Government spending is the highest it's been since World War II. It's a situation that the Congressional Budget Office, did you know this? Very recently, the Congressional Budget Office put out a report stating that the United States, the rate we're going, the United States will never again have a balanced budget. The federal government will never again have a balanced budget. There's a man by the name of Alan Auerbach, who is a fiscal policy expert. He's an academic. He's at the University of California at Berkeley. I saw him. I don't know if you ever look at finance.yahoo.com, a ticker on there, but they have interviews regarding economics and politics and things like that. And I couldn't believe the man said this one day, but he said regarding the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, he said those two parties are in a death embrace with their policies, their economic policies in this nation. I couldn't believe that. He actually said they're in a death embrace right now. He actually put out a paper recently that stated that in order to maintain our current level of national debt divided by gross domestic product, which is a very important ratio, debt divided by gross domestic product, in order to maintain that ratio where it is right now, you would have to cut from the federal budget about 6% of gross domestic product. That would be a cut in the federal budget of $850 to $900 billion per year. And it said in this paper that it's not something that could be done in the future. It would need to happen today. It would need to happen today. $850 to $900 billion cut in federal spending. That's about a quarter of the federal budget right now. That's about 25%. And I will tell you that I am running in part with disappointment with Frank Wolf. Frank Wolf has consistently had the worst NTU rating of any Republican congressman from Virginia. That is a consistent pattern of his. He, from 2004 to 2007, and you can look it up on NTU.org, for 4 consecutive years he earned a C- rating from the National Taxpayers Union. Clearly the worst congressman on fiscal matters among Republican congressmen in Virginia. Now, he's not as bad as the Democrats. We've got to keep things in perspective. But that is the literal truth about his record. And when the man comes to a tough question, such as how to cut government spending, his answer is appoint a commission. That's Frank Wolf's answer for every tough question he comes across. Oh, we'll appoint a commission. This fiscal policy commission is not going to, at the end of the day, it's not going to do a bit of good. They probably won't even agree on a program, whether it's cutting spending, raising taxes, things of that nature. And believe me, they're going to propose new taxes, a value-added tax like they have in Europe. That is going to be proposed, and I think it would be an awful idea to add that onto the burden of taxation we have in this nation as well. But I'll tell you this much: even though I'm a libertarian, I got to tell you, government finance is serious business. And where would I cut? I'll come up with some ideas. I'll tell you those ideas right now. Department of Housing and Urban Development, yes. Goodbye. Department of Education, yes. Goodbye. Yes. It is not in the Constitution. Education is not a part of the Constitution, and a part of this has to be devolving various services that are being handled, various things being handled by the federal government have got to be devolved to the states.